First up, I want to go across to Lieutenant General KGS Dhillon, who's joining us. Former commander of the 15 Corps, has served extensively in Jammu and Kashmir. Sir, I'll begin by thanking you for your time. We are, of course, speaking at a time which is terrible for the country. We've seen the martyrdom of 3 of our soldiers and Jawans. And you participated in the last rite ceremony of Colonel Manpreet. This has been a heavy day for all of us, not just the family, but for the entire country.
Good evening, Shwani, and good evening to all your viewers. First of all, I must pay my condolences once again to all the families of the brave hearts who lost their life fighting terrorism in Kashmir. And also, I must say with great pride in my heart, they did it for the nation, and if required, every Indian will do it every time all over again. Now, coming to your question proper, yes, I attended the last rites of the funeral of Colonel Manpreet Singh Sena Medal today in Chandigarh. And in addition to the serving officers, General Malik was there, the General Bikram was there, retired chief, former chiefs, and a lot of public, lot of civilians.
Yes.
The mahal of the environment was of course, it was a very sober occasion, but then everyone was very proud of the way they laid down their lives for the nation and where they fought it out with the terrorists.
You want to share any words before I ask you some questions about the situation? You want to share any words about Colonel Manpreet? Did you know him well or at all, and anything you want to share about him in with your interaction with the other officers today?
Colonel Manpreet, I had not known him personally, or he had never served with me personally, but what I heard about him and what I had known otherwise of his Unit 12 Sikhlai, Great Paltan and 19 RR, which he was commanding. I had visited that unit a number of times when I was the corps commander, and Colonel Manpreet just joined after that, and he was like a tiger in the prowl. He had earned a Sena Medal gallantry while commanding this unit, leading operations from the front as a commanding officer himself just about 2 years ago, and he was a very, you can say, very forceful commander who always led the operations from the front. He was a great sportsman in the academy and even in his youngster days. A very fine officer, a very loved officer by his troops. And I spoke to a lot of veterans today. I spoke to a lot of serving officers today from his unit. There is a lady in the unit who was my unit girl, and spoke to them. He is a very, very fine man. Spoke to the family today, and I think we are proud of his sacrifice. We are proud of the way he commanded the unit like a tiger, a real tiger, leading from the front.
Sir, speaking of the casualties that we have suffered, we've lost a colonel, a major, also a deputy superintendent of police. These are not the kind of casualties we suffer often. Why do you think the casualties have been of this kind? Because what we hear is that there are only 2 terrorists holed up in this encounter. So what do you make of the casualties we have suffered?
For the benefit of your viewers, I must tell you this area of Kokarnag and the jungles of Pir Panjal where this encounter took place, these are such thick foliage or such thick forest. They are primary forests, they are secondary forests, and they are tertiary forests. They are patches of land which have not seen sunlight ever since the existence. Sun has never been able to reach those patches ever. The foliage is so thick, the forest cover is so thick, visibility at places is down to even 1 meter.
Okay.
If you're a person walking in front, you miss him, you may not be able to see him again for next, unless you shout for him. That is the type of terrain we are talking about. And since Indian Army had pushed the terrorists to the wall, they had broken the back of Pakistani-sponsored terrorism, they were now in a hiding. They were running away from the security forces. They had gone into the jungles, the higher reaches. They are not coming to the populated areas or civilian areas because the type of prosperity which Kashmir is seeing, even the civilians are not welcoming them. So that is where now army columns, the police columns, they go something called seek and destroy. They walk into the jungles, they venture into the higher mountains, they seek the terrorist hideouts, they search for them and they destroy them. And this, as per my information, was an intelligence-based operation, where an intelligence of a particular hideout was available. And once it's an int-based operation or intel-based operation, that is how the commanding officer himself was leading this operation.
Okay.
And all operations are joint operations. The Deputy Superintendent of Police, Muzammil Bhatt, was there. And of course, the company commander of that area was there. Since it was an intelligence-based operation and the contact did happen, that only proves the point which I am making. The commanding officer leading an int-based operation. It is just an unfortunate day. It was probably not our day that day.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything in this operation was as per the standing operating procedures.
Okay.
It is just that when the contact happened, the first burst is always the most dangerous. Because when you are moving, the terrorist is hiding, he is watching you, he has the initiative of the first burst. After that, he has to die. There is not two ways about it. So these casualties probably happened in the first volley of fire, which came from the terrorist side, who were hiding and who could see them coming. So it is just one of those things that day was not our day.
But you know, speaking about the Peer Panjal range that you're talking about, as I mentioned, we are also receiving inputs via agencies that, you know, these terrorists are not just hiding in the mountain range, they're also cutting down their interaction with locals. They're using drug money, for example, to pay off locals in their daily supplies while they hide in these caves and natural hideouts. How do you see this new challenge? As far as the Indian Army is concerned, do you think we also need to do something different to tackle this new tactic?
See, exactly the point I made in the answer to the last question. It is not a tactics they are adopting.
Okay.
It is how the security forces and the local Awam have pushed them out of the populated areas. Their existence in the populated area close to the villages has become untenable. The public, the civilians are not wanting them to come into their villages because they want prosperity, they want peace. So it is out of compulsion that they have moved out of civilian areas or the populated areas, because now civilians are cooperating with the security forces. The intel of the terrorists moving in the populated area is coming very easily. So it is out of compulsion they have to push back themselves and stay away from the populated area so that their information is not leaked out. Now,
Fair
coming
enough.
to the drug money which you are talking about, narco-terrorism is the basic tactics of funding the terrorism in Kashmir and other places used by Pakistan over the decades. Pakistan has used that drug money which was coming from Afghanistan and has supported and funded the terrorism in Kashmir and other places. So it's not a new thing. It's a thing which Pakistan has been doing in the past. There have been enough curbs which have been put on the terror funding
Okay.
by the authorities, by the government. However, that still continues. The work in progress, I always say, we are in the consolidation phase of counter-terrorism. Consolidation phase is the most difficult phase, because when there are 3,000 terrorists, it's easy to kill those terrorists. When there are only few numbers left, then the consolidation, the number of terrorists are very limited. It takes time to get the intelligence. It takes time to eliminate them. So we are in the consolidation phase, and the best part is Awam of Kashmir is with the security forces. They want prosperity.
So, just my final question, you don't think that there is any need to change the way, in the manner in which we've been leading our operations, or in the manner in which we are strategizing these operations? You feel that that is fine, it's just a matter of time before we are able to flush out the last few terrorists as well?
Indian Army has always been using these tactics of seek and destroy, search and destroy. In my young days as a captain, as a major, as a CO, even as a brigade commander, or a sector commander in the forest of Rajwad and Fruda, or in the forest of Lalab, we have been staying in jungles for 30 to 50 days altogether at a stretch and seeking the terrorists and destroying them in the jungles. So this tactics, what the operation which just happened, is nothing new.
Okay.
Indian Army is very good at carrying out operations in thick jungles of search and destroy missions, seek and destroy missions. So it's an old tactics, notwithstanding, with every time that terrorists evolve a new tactics or technique, it's an evolving process. It's a dynamic process. Indian Army also changes its tactics, changes its modus operandi, so that we stay one step ahead of the terrorist. So, carrying out operation in jungles, seeking and searching terrorists in jungles, and destroying them in the jungle itself is an old tactics of Indian Army, and we are very good at it.
Okay, fair enough. I do leave it at that. Lieutenant General Dhillon, thanks a lot for making time and, of course, taking that question as to why we've suffered these casualties. As he said, and he's, of course, extremely experienced in those counter-terrorism operations, he's saying everything is right, the tactics, the way and the operations. It's just that it was not our day on that day.